Friends, the reality is that they want blood in the streets. They want criminals running amok. They want terrorists doing their thing. The more fear that is spread through society, the more we need them. And by them, of course, I mean left-wing governments, be they here in the U.S. or abroad. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840 KXNT. Greetings and welcome to the What's Right Show, your place for common sense conservatism, Monday through Friday, 1 to 3 p.m., here on the What's Right Media Network. Now, I got to mention this because it's just heartbreaking. Another terror attack in Great Britain, Manchester, yesterday, Yom Kippur. We had people going to synagogue to celebrate the holiday. 2 people are dead. Guy goes in there, Syrian guy with British citizenship. I've heard different things. One report says the father is also there in the country, so maybe the guy came there, was even born in the UK. Nonetheless, he goes in, he rams his car into the worshipers there. Number of people injured, 2 are dead, although we just learned today in an especially tragic twist, the idiotic cops over there in Great Britain, the counterterrorism police, supposedly accidentally shot an innocent bystander. I know, it happens. I get it. But I wouldn't be surprised at the state of policing in Great Britain, where the government is. I wouldn't be even surprised if the cops that show up on the scene have an animus against Jews. I wouldn't put it past them. So this is infuriating. And there's another story, too. There's a story about a young woman in her 20s, beautiful young woman in Paris. She is going through a very high-end neighborhood that abuts a park called Bois de Boulogne. It's a beautiful part of Paris. If you've been to Paris, you've done any amount of walking in Paris, you've been there. So she goes through. Anyway, this guy, Moroccan guy, who has felonies, has a deportation order, doesn't get deported. This guy rapes and kills her. In both instances, these are 1, 2 of many, 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 many repeating examples of where governments, left-wing governments, woke governments, multiculturally obsessed governments, allow garbage human beings to be in the country with their hate, their primitive ways. And it has to be said, it's fundamentally primitive. These are animals being left to run amok in our ordered Western civilization. My entire life growing up, I've heard nothing from liberals always about protecting women and women's right to choose and this and that. But the left of today has exposed itself because any apology for this now, any apology for mass immigration, for allowing illegals, criminal illegals into the country, any of this has run out of room, has run out of runway. It has and deserves no quarter. And I'm fired up about this. We are so lucky to have Donald J. Trump as president of this country. And I'll tell you, if there's one thing that Trump is doing, is he's going up and he's rounding up criminal illegal aliens. He is, for the first time in my life, these people are afraid. They're afraid that Tom Homan and his ICE agents, DHS agents, whomever, police, are going to show up, grab him, tag him, bag him, and pop him out of the country. This is what our government ought to be doing. And I want you to pay careful attention to each and every politician, political commentator, people in your social circle who are apoplectic. How dare we? How dare Donald Trump, Tom Homan, Nazis, fascists, how dare they just to rip apart these poor immigrant families? And yet then when we peel back the layers and we get the story on some of these people, Kilmar Abrego Garcia, by the way, is about to get sent off somewhere to Africa. I can't go to El Salvador. They're going to do bad things to me. Okay, buddy, you're not going to El Salvador. Off to Africa. They'll take you. Watch, he'll be in El Salvador by the middle of next week. But I digress. That was an example, right? The entire Democrat establishment, their friends in the media, everybody rallied behind Kilmar Abrego Garcia. It turned out he's a bad dude. Up and down. He wasn't some nice guy working at a union, earning a paycheck and la-di-da. I mean, this guy was a human trafficker. It was plain as this happens again and again and again. Remember, Jessica Tarloff from Fox News fame. Jessica Tarloff posts a picture of a video of a guy getting bagged and arrested, running, crying, by ICE somewhere in Washington, D.C. Turns out the guy was a child rapist. These are the people the left, for whatever reason, is intent on supporting. And it's maddening. It's infuriating. Enough is enough. And I've talked about Great Britain. I've warned you folks, because for those of us here in the U.S., obviously our historic genesis traces back to the British. And for whatever animus we, the upstart colonists, had against our British overlords, a couple of conflicts and whatnot, have since forged a rather close relationship, dubbed by some a special relationship. And we have to say, you go to law school. I'm an attorney. You go to law school, you learn about British law. I mean, we've built our system on the British system. But we here, thanks to our founding fathers, have something so much better and more powerful because our system has been able to quickly revert back from the precipice of a liberal disaster. And the existing parliamentary system, the existing British system, the monarchy and everything, I'm convinced, is making it much more difficult for the British to reclaim their country. Now, they may still wake up. And it's going to be a canary in the mine moment. It'll be a telltale moment to see if there's an awakening writ large in the Western world. What Trump is doing, and I've said this over and over again, Trump is not just saving America. He is demonstrating to the West that if you don't take control of your immigration policy, if you do not take control over crime, you no longer have a country. Every Jewish person right now is thinking about leaving the UK. Who's going to be left? You're probably thinking, well, Sam, there's just a few Jews in England. That's not a big deal. That's not the point. Do you know how many law-abiding people are thinking the same thing? You think that an attack just on the Jews because they're the Jews, you know what that's all about? This is how it begins. This is the start to the Bolshevik Revolution, to the next takeover of Western capitalism. The animosity for Jews comes from a place of envy. Envy, the most base, worthless, but degrading and poisonous of human fallibility. This is it, right? And it will happen. They will start. Trust me. If you let Keir Starmer have his way, this guy is a raging commie pinko. Now, some glimmers of hope. I mentioned there. British media now. Some in the British media actually fighting back, appalled by what happened, and particularly appalled that Keir Starmer has issued some kind of a firmly worded statement that we protect the Jewish community, which is bunk. They've allowed the Hamas sympathizers to run freely, to protest, to tear down, to burn down, Britain is one of the countries, the UK, that supported and has endorsed a Palestinian state. These people are fanatics. And behind that clean-cut, crisp-looking veneer bodysuit that Keir Starmer has on, the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, is everything bad that comes from Western liberalism, Western defeatism, multiculturalism, socialism, communism. This guy is the worst. But if he sits down in a room and he starts talking to the new crop of Democrats in our country, I'm convinced that probably find a lot of common ground with them. We really were just one election away from going down the same road. If there's any silver lining here, it's that we in America should be so grateful that Trump won in November. It was an absolutely defining moment for us. This is why I keep talking about Europe. I'll talk about it a lot because it is a clear alternative to how things could have been here. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840 KXNT. Back in a moment. Don't go anywhere, folks. Lots to cover today on the What's Right show.
I'm the best.
Personal injury law has been the same for a long time.
The best.
Big egos, greed, and sleazy schemes. We've had enough. Welcome to Sam and Ash, the new standard for personal injury law, where things are done the right way, because you deserve a team that delivers real support and results. When you have both, your whole world can change. Sam and Ash Injury Law, because you deserve what's right.
Why are so many politicians hell-bent on importing the worst of the worst into our country? And then perfectly fine with the disastrous consequences that follow. There are too many innocent lives being lost to the politics of woke. Sam Mirejovsky here behind the What's Right microphone. I am Nevada's favorite recovering Californian. Happy Friday here. Here's a local story. It's been in the news this past week. 22-year-old Logan Federico. She was shot dead during a home invasion robbery in South Carolina. The guy that shot her, Alexander Dickey, had a record of 39 arrests and 25 felonies since the age of 15. And he only served 600 days total in prison over a decade. A couple years ago, a circuit court judge, a person named Bentley Price, downgraded Dickey's burglary charge and released him on probation after 410 days of a 5-year sentence. Now, I try not to get angry here. I don't want to... I got to keep my blood pressure down. But it's tough. I'm either going to get angry or I'm going to start crying. Right? This is awful. Preventable death. And the question I always ask is, why do these politicians, why do these Democrats, why do these libs in their clearly large amounts of compassion that they have, why don't they share some of that compassion for the lawful among us? Why don't they direct some of their empathy for law-abiding citizens who are going about their business, taxpayers, the good guys? Why does the left reserve their alms for the worst of the worst? Now, I've always known the answer is the mayhem. They want the mayhem to happen. It's a accelerant to getting and being able to consolidate power. One of the things in the wake of the horrific attack on the synagogues, and the most recent one yesterday, Yom Kippur, the attack that left 2 people dead, a number injured. A guy named, literally, his name is Jihad. That's his name. The attacker's name is Jihad. I don't know if he came with his parents. His parents also live in the country. His father does, at least, has a social media presence. These are people, clearly, that hate Western civilization. He's from Syria. They keep calling him a British man. He's not a British man. He may have British citizenship. If I get a passport tomorrow to, I don't know, Zimbabwe, doesn't make me Zimbabwean. This is such bunk. It is such nonsense and horse crap, this multicultural. And why, of all the people to import into your country, why are you bringing people in who want to do this kind of stuff, who harbor these kind of animosities? Now, the reason they're allowed to do it, and this is the saying the quiet part out loud, is the reason they're allowed to do this is the leftists and, you know, Democrats here, the laborists in Great Britain, you've got the leftist parties in Germany and in France. They all are more sympathetic with the Islamists than they are with the Jews. They would rather support Hamas than keep a synagogue safe. Now, things are beginning to spill over in anger, not just in our country, where we have the benefit of having an election where we have quickly elected a change agent, Donald Trump, who's doing something about immigration. The Brits are for example, it's a little bit more difficult. And I got this. After this happened, Julia Hartley Brewer. This is she's got a show on a channel called Talk in Great Britain, and she called out the prime minister after his ghastly remarks saying, "Oh, we're going to keep the Jewish community safe, and this is unacceptable," and da-da-da-da-da. It was all pure lip service. Listen to the bombs that she dropped.
He says, "We will do everything to keep our Jewish community safe." I've got to be honest with you. Prime Minister, I don't think you have done enough to keep our Jewish community safe. I think when you happily allow these pro-Palestinian marches on the streets, and yeah, the last government did too. I think it was a point when they were supportive of the Palestinian people and people in Gaza. They're just pro-Hamas marches. A lot of the people who organise them are very, very closely linked with the Hamas terrorists who launched the attack on October the 7th and still hold hostages right now, starved and beaten and tortured in tunnels under Gaza City and elsewhere. When so little's done, when pro-Palestinian activists are able to freely basically set off fireworks and act with impunity on our streets, as they did in London only last night. If you look at my social feed, you'll see I've just retweeted some images of that. Not a police officer inside. When a Jewish man, Gideon Volta, is told off for walking along on one of these pro-Palestinian marches against the route of traffic and being told he has to leave because he's openly Jewish. When children who go to schools that are Jewish schools are told, don't wear your blazer. We don't want anyone to know you're Jewish. When every synagogue in this country has to have a guard outside, more than one guard outside because of the fear of attacks. When people are routinely being harassed in the street, on social media, in public, on public transport. Sorry, it's too late. It's too late, Prime Minister.
Yeah, it is too late. These pro-Palestine protests, it's not pro-Palestine, it's pro-Hamas. And we conservatives need to stay clear-eyed about this. We can have disagreements about the level of financial support that Israel gets from us, and we can grouse about AIPAC and whatever. Whatever. We can have a discussion about that. I'm a common sense person. But my very being, my very essence, and I'm not coming at this from a religious perspective at all. I'm coming at this purely from self-preservation. Islam is a threat. And the enemy of my enemy is my friend. And at my very essence, my core, this is what I believe. And so these, listen to what they're doing. Any government right now, any politician that recognized Palestinian state, while Jews were still being held captive, doesn't deserve a place in power anywhere in the Western world, these people would prefer to see Hamas run roughshod over all of us and Hezbollah and any other terrorist group than peacefully coexist with the Jewish religion. There's no place for you. I'm sorry. By the way, these are the same people that let criminals out of jail over and over again. Greetings and good afternoon. The What's Right show is on, brought to you by Sam & Ash Injury Law. A word about Sam & Ash. You know, you get into an accident, first thing that happens, you've got all this pain and, you know, whatever you're dealing with. And on top of it, you get these phone calls, you get letters, voicemails, the adjuster, they're asking for information. Your head is spinning. 15 minutes or less, that's all it takes. A phone call to Sam & Ash Injury Law, and you can turn all of this headache over to Sam & Ash. So easy. What do you get? Peace of mind with Nevada and California's most trusted name in personal injury. Sam & Ash gets started on your case immediately, the same day. You can call in, talk to Jesus, talk to Ian, talk to Oscar. We got a great team. They'll handle everything, get you started, get you set up with a lawyer here and the team, and all of us working on the case. Hire your lawyers today. Sam & Ash Injury Law, 702-820-1234. Offices in California and Nevada, because you deserve what's right. Now, folks, what's decidedly not right were the scenes in England, in Great Britain, the United Kingdom, whatever you want to call it, following the violent and deadly terror attack on Jewish Brits in Manchester celebrating Yom Kippur. Now, you would think that the protests, you'd think that people would flood the streets demanding some reforms, but instead, the pro-Hamas, pro-Palestinian protesters swept the streets and things quickly got violent. These were scenes the very evening following the attack.
It's mostly pro-Palestine protesters that are there right now. It is getting a bit violent, Ian. I've just seen 3 territorial squad police vans filled with officers just go onto Whitehall. Basically, about sort of half an hour ago, the police cordon that was in place to try basically to control some of the protesters and to stop violence breaking out. That cordon was broken. I saw all the protesters cheering as they managed to break through that police line.
Yeah, that's the answer. The answer is to support more terror. Remember when J.D. Vance was asked somewhere during, I think it was during your Senate campaign, I don't think it was in 2024, but he was asked about the first Islamic country that he thought that would become a nuclear power. This was in the context of discussing Iran's nuclear ambition, and he paused and he gave the answer, and it was thought out. It wasn't meant to be a quip that he thought the first Islamic country would be the UK to have a bomb, because the UK already has nukes, and they're, in the, relatively speaking, they're minutes away from becoming a caliphate. Imagine a strategically important island nation off the coast of Europe, just a throws away from us on the Atlantic, becoming a terror state. I know some people listening to me think I'm crazy. Trust me, I'm not one of those crazy people in the media. I'm not. That's not. It's not who I am. But I understand Europe. I've seen what's been happening. I know what's going on in Germany. I know what's going on in France. And I definitely understand what's going on in the UK. The same politicians that we have here, the same people that have prioritized the well-being here in America of Trenda Oregua gang members over the rights and safety, most importantly, the safety of their own citizens, of Americans. The same people who, when Trump said, Trenda Oregua took over a number of apartment buildings in Aurora, Colorado. This is a very micro example, but But remember when he said that during the campaign, and Martha Raddatz and everybody in the mainstream media just started to lose their minds. Well, this is just not true. It was all true. But Trump was right. But it wasn't an isolated incident. That's the crazy thing. It just was happening over and over and over again. We're in the middle of a shutdown, the Schumer shutdown. Some people now are calling it the Schumer siesta. Do you know this? Because the sombreros are not going anywhere, folks. They're not going anywhere, and they can cry all they want about how racist Trump is. It's taken over the internet. So we're in the middle of a Schumer siesta, and what is it that they're arguing for? What are our American politicians on the other side of the aisle wanting? That's right. They want benefits for illegal immigrants. And why do you think that is? Do you think it's purely humanitarianly? Oh my gosh. You think it's purely humanitarian? God, it's been a long week, folks. Robbie's looking at me like, take this guy off the radio. What the hell are they doing? It's not just, folks, the compassion among rank and file Dems, among voters, sure. People are emotional. They go, oh, we got to help people. I don't want people dying in the emergency room, just laying there bleeding out just because they're illegal. It's not okay. But the leadership is doing one of two things. One, they're doing actually both. One, they want to incentivize bad people to come in from the third world and invade America and tear this country down. I give it, there's benefits, there's power benefits. Look, the reason that Keir Starmer is allowing these protesters to run amok in the streets, he wants people terrorized. He wants even the conservatives to go, yes, give me the digital ID. Please, Prime Minister, I want the digital ID. I want my safety. Remember what we conservatives allowed George W. Bush to do to our country in the wake of 9/11? How's that for a callback? And I'm sure some of you were much more clear-sighted in the moment than I, at a young 21 years of age, was. I just turned 21 when September 11th happened. And I said, yeah, we probably do need to beef up security at airports. Yeah, you know what? Yeah, the Patriot Act, I'm mortified by that position today. Mortified. As are many of my former neocon, compatriots who have progressed as I have to full-blown MAGA. But that's what's going on. I'm just explaining it to you. They want chaos. They want you to be afraid. They want these young women to be attacked on the train and be murdered in daylight. It's what they want. If they didn't want it, they'd put the felons in jail. The other part of it is they profit off of it. If you trace the money, if you just look at the flow of cash to this, and you realize, like we talked about yesterday with the healthcare providers that are providing all of this free healthcare, subsidized healthcare by taxpayers, nothing's free, that servicing these immigrant communities, these clinics, those are all big Democrat donors. Of course they're Democrat donors because the Democrats keep wanting to feed them. More benefits for illegals, more money getting paid out, more housing. These NGOs are making a killing. There are thousands, tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of people that are living in mansions today because of the immigrant invasion under Joe Biden. There are people who were making $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 a year, and some that were making millions of dollars a year off of this. No question. And Trump turned off their spigot. So, of course, they're angry. But when Trump did this, he demonstrated something to the rest of the world. He demonstrated that it can be done. And one of the reasons that the Western European countries are so intent on locking down social media and arresting you if you dare write a tweet that questions their autocratic ways, their open border policies, their hatred for the law-abiding, culturally British, culturally German, French, read white people. You dare criticize their contempt that they have for you, they'll come and arrest you. And the reason they'll do it, they're terrified that people are going to find out that they don't have to live this way. And that they'll begin to, boost each other and support each other to getting stuff done. This is happening. Oh, there's a debate. There's a British parliamentary election coming up. There's a debate about this on air. And guess who gets credit? This is an unbelievable thing. This is America becoming the savior of the world. It's not just Trump. It's also Elon Musk. I've talked about this a lot. I got to play this clip. Okay, stay tuned. I'll be right back. Quick, obscene profit timeout, as Rush would call it. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840, KXNT. Sam Mirejovsky back behind the What's Right microphone. Folks, there's been an update here as I am perusing the news during the break. So the Guardian reporting now that the Manchester synagogue terrorist was apparently on bail for alleged rape. Jihad al-Shami had been under investigation over alleged sexual attack earlier this year. There it is. Out on bail. It's all the same stuff. That's my point. This is all connected. It's all being done by leftists. You never hear about a Republican or conservative jurisdiction that's like, oh, we let out another rapist. We let out another terrorist. Oh, that guy's not in jail. Here on the What's Right show, folks, we focus on the common sense. This, to me, is so fundamentally common sense. And we have to talk about it. Now, in the U.S., we have this pesky thing that Obama wished he could have done away with, as have a number of other leftist rulers that we've had. And that's the First Amendment. In Europe, they don't have it. In Europe, if you write, hey, what's this guy named Jihad doing out on bail for rape, the police will show up at your door. He gets to walk out on the street. He gets to reoffend. He gets to be a criminal. But if you criticize, if you are, what's the technical term of the charge? If you're inciting racial hatred, simply by pointing out, hey, there's this bad guy and his name is Jihad. Geez, maybe we've got a problem here. This is the guy that went on yesterday to kill 2 Jews and hurt many others in an attack on a synagogue worshipers at Yom Kippur. On Yom Kippur. So, this is the kind of stuff that you're dealing with. Here was a great debate about precisely the ability, what I'm talking about, this ability to talk about this openly. And this was a counselor for the Reform Party. The Reform Party is Nigel Farage's party. And a writer who is a labor guy, Paul Richards, on Musk and his free speech. Basically the idea of the platform. And obviously the laborists, right, the left-wing guy, this guy that would be a supporter of Keir Starmer, is none too pleased, okay, about people being able to speak freely, and particularly what Elon Musk thinks Elon Musk is dangerous.
How is it?
Are you happy with Elon Musk? Are you an Elon Musk fan?
You know why? You know why Elon Musk terrifies you, and you call it disinformation? Because it's speech you cannot control. That's it. You can't control. Although you're trying. Listen, with the online safety.
You think he's a Democrat?
You are trying.
Do you think he believes in democracy?
Do you believe in democracy?
Well, obviously I do. But
how do you believe? Did people vote for the digital ID? Did people vote for the online safety bill? No, you don't believe in democracy. You don't believe in Brexit.
Elon Musk.
You want it overthrown.
Elon
Musk is not an elected official. I want the leader of this country to believe in democracy.
Are you a fan of him?
I'm a fan for anyone that protects free speech. Yes, I am a fan of him. He's a genius. Have you thought what he's brought to...
I think he's an idiot. I think he doesn't understand...
He's an idiot.
I don't think he understands our political
Someone who's
system
created
at all.
SpaceX and Tesla is an idiot. Is an idiot.
They keep blowing up. He's wiped millions off the share price of his own
Labour
company.
cabinet member who's achieved...
I think he's an absolute danger to himself and others.
In what sense? I'll tell you what's a danger. Is a corrupt Labour Party. Is a corrupt Labour Party that's... Yes, because you're running a country. I'll tell you what's a danger, is you trying to chip away our freedoms bit by bit with the online safety bill, the digital ID, under the guise of safety.
I don't believe he actually thinks in democracy.
You know, the problem is that the establishment used to control what we see and hear. Now we have X, and that terrifies people like you. It terrifies. No, he's not. You are the establishment. Your party is the establishment. And actually, people are waking up to they've been lied to the whole time.
I like her. By the way, she's easy on the eyes, too, which is great. These are the candidates that Nigel Farage needs to run the board with. Now, but there it is. Doesn't this sound like some of the guy? Doesn't he sound like every other Democrat that you watch on TV? First of all, can we just pause here for a second? Imagine you're making an argument that Elon Musk is an idiot. Just full stop. Imagine making that argument. When you debate with people, if somebody makes, and by the way, I'm as a lawyer, right? This is what we do when we are negotiating and when we're in court. Your opponent, in a closing argument, right? So that's when you do your legal argument. You can't do an argument in the open. You have to do it at the very end after all the evidence has been presented. And I always wait for my opponent to say something that is patently ridiculous. Like example, Elon Musk is an idiot. Like, you can argue all sorts of things about Elon Musk that are a matter of legitimate opinion. You can have different opinions. But a guy who self-taught himself how to build booster rockets for spaceships, and who did more basically with a crack team of 12 people than NASA has been able to do with the federal budget, not an idiot, like objectively, right? So this is how they are. And if those of you who are watching the Sam Cam and can see the video, this guy doesn't, these people lie and they say things and they're like bots. I know what the difference between him and a robot is. But look at how much the authoritarians fear him. And also, gosh, there's that pesky buzzword again. Robbie, what's the buzzword? Democracy. You see Kash Patel came out and we'll get to that next hour, but Kash Patel's basically starting to really come out and say that J6 was an inside job and stuff that we've, certainly I've long suspected. Now, but again, the Democrats have run with the democracy argument since Trump first showed up on the scene. That's been their entire pitch. We support democracy. And then they proceed to do a series of highly authoritarian things. And when we are finally able to dispositively show that the Democrats staged January 6th, loaded a bunch of nice, gullible middle America people who were pissed off about the election supporting Donald Trump and whipped them up into a frenzy, and then seeded maybe not agents, but paid agitators into the crowd to do the real damage and the real violence, and then to spin their narrative, and then to try to basically eradicate the Make America Great Again movement, put the leader of the movement and basically most of his top command into prison. And then when that failed and the guy that they tried to get, they couldn't get, and he actually was going to come back as president, give everybody involved with that whole thing a pardon, a blanket pardon. I don't know, folks. Doesn't sound like democracy to me. I mean, it'd be funny if it wasn't so sad. Be wary of anybody who slickly talks about democracy. I love democracy, but I don't think the other side does at all. I think they cloak themselves. They put it on. What did I mention earlier? The skin suit, right? They just kind of load it on. It's like it's like the guy that's in drag. He's not a woman, right? These Democrats, they call themselves Democrats. They talk about democracy. They're not democratic, right? They're the political version of drag queens. That's exactly what they are. If you were to call the Democrats, if you were to change the name of the Democratic Party into something that would be representative of basically their agenda, you'd call them totalitarians. Is that simple and straightforward to me? Robbie, we've got that Kash Patel clip. If not, let's get that loaded on the board. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840, KXNT, the What's Right show, brought to you by Sam and Ash Injury Law. In a crash, call Sam and Ash 702-820-1234 because you deserve what's right.
My name is Greta Thunberg. I'm a citizen of Sweden. If you are watching this video, I have been abducted and taken against my will by Israeli forces. Our humanitarian mission was non-violent and abiding by international law. Please tell my government to demand my and the others' immediate release.
That was Greta Thunberg. Her flotilla has been boarded by the Israeli government, by the Navy, armed forces, and the party is over. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840, KXNT. There's some video of a member of British Parliament who is a Muslim activist, pro Hamas activist, who was on the flotilla, promptly throwing her phone overboard. She just chucked her phone into the ocean just as the vessel was getting boarded. Why do you think she did that? My guess is she was corresponding with Hamas. Yeah, this is the craziest thing to me. Talking to producer Robbie here and got our eyes locked. Imagine this. You are a law-abiding British citizen. You're a Brit. Your parents were Brits. Your grandparents were Brits. You're an English, Welsh, whatever you are, right? Scottish person. And lo and behold, all of a sudden you post somewhere on the internet a perfectly honest opinion like, hey, we've got a lot of criminals that are coming over from Syria. The police show up demanding your phone. They show up demanding your social media account passwords. They show up looking to carefully scrutinize every little bit of stuff you've done digitally, right? And yet a member of British Parliament likely has contacts with terrorists, and no one's batting an eye. She's allowed to go on a flotilla and go and invade a sovereign country, basically. Well, I'm glad Israel isn't having any of it. This is how it should end. By the way, saw another video of an Israeli policeman going through the hull of the boats. Now, I'm just reporting this. It's not confirmed, but I'm just saying this would not surprise me at all. And so I saw this going through it completely empty. They didn't have any supplies. And the reason that I'm bemused by that, and I tend to believe it, is because remember Greta Thunberg's original boat? It was a tiny little sailboat. I'm not a boat guy, so forgive me. Was it 20 feet, 22 feet? Something like that. This is the kind of boat that if you're on it with 6 people, it would feel a little tight, okay? Like if you're sailing out in the open Mediterranean, it's tight. You maybe don't have enough places to put enough food for all of you for a lengthy period of time. And that's why I thought it was such a joke from the very beginning, this whole like Gaza flotilla thing. Because I was looking at these tiny little boats, I'm like, what the hell are they bringing over? They're there to feed the Gazans. Meanwhile, Israel has said, give us the aid and we'll deliver it. We'll see to it that it gets delivered. We have no problem with this. But they don't report that in the media, do they? I don't know. I'm just, for me, it's it was good guys and bad guys in this. Yeah. So, well, Robbie's telling me that this woman, this member of parliament, that she's a lib, and she's also very pro-environment. That's not environmentally friendly to throw your lithium-ion battery into the ocean ecosystem. Robbie has a point. This is absolutely right. But yeah, you have to be a fool to look for logic in a liberal's heart. Notice I didn't say brain. I said heart. That's where all of this comes from. But the people at the top, folks, the people at the top are devious. One of the stories, and we just don't talk about this stuff enough here. Where do I have this? I got to pull up my stack of stuff. The insane, terrible things that are coming out of the news that's coming out of Sweden. When I was a kid, Sweden was the most organized, clean, great country, IKEA furniture and Volvos, and they made the Saab, the weird cars that eventually went out of business. My mom had one, great car. I love the design of them, particularly late 80s, early 90s, super dope. Sweden, beautiful people, nice people, clean. Anyway, high trust society is my point. But they got a little left wing because, good times create weak men and weak men create hard times. And so with a lot of weak men and weak women, the Swedes decided to embrace multiculturalism. They flung their doors open. They welcomed the hordes. Come in, dear Syrians. Come in, North Africans. We're welcome here. Come to Sweden. And we need to be a little less white over here anyway. It's getting too pasty. And we want to boost our GDP a little bit. So we got to add some bodies. And now we got to ask how it's going. It's terrible. Apparently, according to CBS News, teen girls are being recruited. This is a very perverted take on the grooming gangs that you have going on in Great Britain and Birmingham, Manchester, and elsewhere. Teen girls are being used as hit women by organized crime families. And these are all, just let me give you some of their names. From the article, again, CBS, in July, the head of one of Sweden's biggest crime organizations was arrested in Turkey. Swedish media named him as 35-year-old Ismail Abdu, head of the Roomba crime organization. I don't think that they're talking about the little robot vacuum. He once led the Foxtrot crime network together with Rawa Majid. These are Swedish names, folks. Don't this? What pairs nicely with the with lingonberries? Abdu and Majid, apparently. Last month, a shooting near a mosque in central Sweden left one person dead and one injured, and police said they believed it was linked to gang violence. You know what else people are talking about? See, I'm on it because I'm pissed off. You know that they allow, and there is a huge problem in Western Europe with first cousins getting married? That last week, there was this big brouhaha, and it was in the Daily Mail. Let me see. I got this in my stack of stuff, too. The NHS, the National Health Service, this is the public health care in England. Remember, growing up, we'd always be told about, in England and in Canada, they've got these great socialized medicine. Everybody gets health care, and that's how we should be here. Hillary Clinton waxed poetic about it in the 90s. And every time she opened her mouth, we all reasonable, normal people knew it was a load of crap because everywhere we understood how it isn't fundamentally going to work. Well, it's gotten even worse. Because guess what happens to the NHS, for example, in England, or the emergency rooms in LA or Las Vegas or New York, when you let a lot of illegals into the country, a lot of immigrants all at once, and they're all third world people, and they all have all sorts of diseases and problems. Well, I don't have to be, you have to be like brilliant here to realize the system is going to get overwhelmed. That's what's happening. But on the other hand, the system also is getting infected by woke. big time. So they've come out to support first cousin marriage, saying it's fine. Because, why? It's popular with the Islamic, Pakistani, Syrian community. Again, this is Daily Mail. This isn't me. Quote, the practice, which is common in the British Pakistani community, has been linked to a greater prevalence of disorders such as cystic fibrosis or sickle cell disease. You know, one statistic I've read is that you are 100% times more likely as a child born to first cousins, 100% more likely to be born with some level of mental retardation. Maybe this is a policy just to get more left-wing Democrat liberal voters. I don't know. Robbie's looking at me. This is terrible. This is really, really terrible. Figures show, this is from the Daily Mail, that up to 20% of the children treated for congenital problems in cities such as Sheffield, Glasgow, Birmingham are of Pakistani descent, compared to with 4% or lower in the wider population. Stop effing your cousins. My gosh. I think the goats are safer. Anyway, all right, I got to take a quick break. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840, KXNT. I'm feisty today, Robbie. I told you.
The Sam and Ash team, they wanted me to have the best care. They had my interests at heart. I have an enormous amount of gratitude. I cannot say enough thank you.
Hi, welcome back. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840, KXNT. Still on air. They haven't yanked the show yet. All right. My goodness. I am, everybody's over here dying. All right, if you missed the last segment, you'll probably want to get the podcast. At What's Right Show is my Twitter handle. That's where you find me on X. And I've got clips on there of the show, at What's Right Show. If you go to the main Twitter account, you got it there. And of course, anywhere you get your podcast, What's Right Show. Find us, click to subscribe, leave us a review, give us some stars, show your love. We need that right now. It's very important. Got to cut through all the fog. Well, speaking of cutting through the fog, here's a flotilla that I think actually is going to scare the living daylights out of someone. No, it's not Greta Thunberg. It's the U.S. Navy preparing to seize Venezuelan ports. Venezuela, folks, has long been a dangerous thorn in the side of the United States, and they have deliberately sponsored terrorists entering the country, people that the military has trained up, developed as war fighters, and sent in posing as migrants crossing the southern border. The border left wide open by the auto pen president. And then once embedded here, they began using military-style tactics to wreak havoc on communities across America. All this was done very deliberately. It was a targeted attack on the United States. And to quote a famous movie with Harrison Ford from the, I think, early 90s, these cartels, this government presents a clear and present danger to the United States of America. Now, don't expect a war, folks. This isn't going to be a war. This is a military action that's going to take out Maduro's regime, and there's still some good people left in Venezuela. They'll sort it out. It was in my lifetime that country got taken over by the communists. And again, it's a cautionary tale for all of us, right? You can go from a thriving, and Venezuela was. I had a friend who served a Mormon Latter-day Saint mission down there right before the takeover. It was maybe not a first world, but it was a thriving economy. And when Hugo Chavez came to power, confiscated everything, took all the refineries. He's going to liberate these foreign-owned refineries because Venezuela has a lot of oil. And he was going to make the people rich. Guess what? Did it happen? Yes or no? Spoiler alert. No, it did not. So anyway, this is what they want. If Mamdani gets his way, this is what he'll do in New York. People, I'm liking that the articles are now, even the left-wingers like, okay, well, this is too crazy. We'll go with the other guy. We'll go with the pervert. We'll go with Andrew Cuomo. And one of the things they're talking about, I love this, Robbie, they're talking about the state-run grocery stores. Now, that's one of the plans. The state-run, Mamdani's going to do state-run grocery stores. Now, any of you that have experienced in any way, shape, or form communism, socialism, etc., know exactly how this will end. In a communist system where there is no private competition, the government stores simply don't have to do anything. They get deliveries when they get them. It's not based on what the customer wants or needs. There isn't any attempt to beat your competitor down the street to have better offerings, cheaper offerings, etc. They just put the stuff on the shelf when they get to it. And if you're there in the store and you say, well, I need yogurt today, I'm making whatever, or I need flour, or I need sugar. Sorry, man, we don't have sugar this month. And when I was a kid, 10 years old, 11 years old, and I was starting to travel back to the Czech Republic, then Czechoslovakia, and it was already liberated from communism, but there were still state-run stores. It took a while for that to be privatized. And those state-run stores, I can tell you very quickly, didn't very quickly adapt, and you'd go into the store and be empty shelves. Imagine me coming from, Orange County, California, all of a sudden being like, well, I can't buy what I want. I have money. I have money. I will pay you. No, sorry, we just don't have it. This is what will happen. But in New York, the crazy thing is the stores will be competing against bodegas that are selling stuff at market rates. So what will happen is initially when it works in the first several months, the government store that gets government funding is going to undercut all the private stores. The private stores are going to suffer, may even go out of business. People will flock to the government store. But then, mark my words, the government store will fail, and all of a sudden, these low-income neighborhoods won't have food. No, I'm not worried about the rich people. The rich people, Manhattanites, or Whole Foods or whatever, Dean and DeLuca, they're going to find their fancy food to eat and have. Not a problem. They're not going to go. If you live on Park Avenue, you're not going to be going over to, Mamdani's grocery store. But in the low-income areas, watch it happen. These stores are already on thin ice because of the rampant crime, the shoplifting, the criminals that are allowed to reoffend and reoffend and reoffend, the tickets that are given to people who are serial thieves. And I'm not talking about Captain Crunch. These stores are already hanging by a thread, and they'll come in with the state-run, this will be great, everything done. They're going to close shop. And then it'll become literally a food desert. This is the prophecy of Sam here. So, I'm telling you, I really worry. Now, Mamdani put out a new ad. It was like a Bachelor-style ad. Robbie, have you seen that? And Mike Cernovich reposted it. This is how I saw it. Cernovich reposted it, and he said, this is very persuasive, and he said, my prediction is, Cernovich is a smart dude, my prediction is that Mamdani's the next mayor of New York. And I'm sitting here, I'm going, well, I've been saying this now for months here on the show. We have to be prepared as conservatives to actually go to battle against communists. No, I'm not talking about guns, but we have to we've got to get our facts and our history and our logic brushed up. We're not fighting. This is not your dad's Democratic Party. Hell, this isn't even your Democratic Party if you're a Democrat or grew up as a Democrat. This is full-blown, well, they call themselves Democratic Socialists. So, you know, I mean, with their love of euphemisms, you know how bad that is. If you're speaking Democrat and you're underplaying stuff, Democrat Socialist equals radical communist. Well, I just believe in equity, and I just believe in, I believe in decency for all people and dignity of life. Dignity of life? Read Solzhenitsyn. Dignity of life. Think there was any dignity of life in the Eastern Bloc if you weren't a member of the Politburo or a high-ranking, Democrat, communist apparatchik? No, of course not. Dignity of life. They sent people, 100 million people dead. That's the low figure, by the way. If you seen as high as 250 million dead as a consequence of communist regimes in the 20th century alone. Absolutely devastating. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840 KXNT. What's Right show brought to you by Sam and Ash Injury Law. In a crash, call Sam and Ash 702-820-1234 because you deserve what's right. Rarely wrong, always right. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840 KXNT. This hour of the program brought to you by Sam and Ash Injury Law. You were in an accident. The calls are adding up. You've got the voicemails coming in, the adjuster calling. I keep talking about this. It's all true, and it happens all too often. They're pressing you for information, your head's spinning. In 15 minutes or less, get Nevada's most trusted name in personal injury on your side. At Sam and Ash, we get started on your case immediately, same day, no hassle, just relief. Sam and Ash Injury Law, 702-820-1234, offices in Nevada and California, because you deserve what's right. So how is, folks, the shutdown going? The Schumer siesta, as I've heard it now referred to, and I'm loving it. I'm going to start using that, the Schumer siesta, because it's really just the Democrats taking a nap, hoping that they can persuade the Republicans to go back on their most fundamental of campaign promises. If you look at Trump's election in 24, and most, I would imagine, all Republicans running for re-election in Congress, their constituents do not want money going to illegal immigrants. So anyway, hoping that Schumer siesta ends with the Republicans coming around and actually funding health care for illegals. Not going to happen. So I said that the Republicans are winning the messaging war yesterday. I got some feedback, a lot of great emails from you guys. Thank you for, most of you think I'm right. And I understand those of you who have your doubts, it's because years and years and years, we were always on the losing side of the messaging war. So here we are. We are doing better. And I would say one great sign is what Jesse Waters reported on his show on Fox last night. If you missed this, here's what he said.
In America, there are 40 million registered Democrats. Guess how many were watching Hakeem's live stream? 36. And one of those 36 was us.
Of course, this is referring to Hakeem Jeffries, wannabe Speaker of the House, Timu Obama, Mr. Senor Sombrero. And they did a live stream. They're trying to get everybody excited. There are 36 people on the live stream. Unlike broadcast TV, you know exactly how many hookups there are. So, I don't know. I mean, even the Dems aren't that excited. They're not excited. He's a snooze fest, right? I mean, he's a complete, boring, absentee person. It's like they created him in some kind of a lab with all the right amounts of wokeness and diversity and, some height. I guess he's a tall guy. I've never met him. Well, anyway, I'm just this is the problem. So it's not going anywhere. Is my point. I think the Democrats are going to fold. I don't even need that many of them to fold. I think 3 of them already folded. One of which was our senator here in Nevada, Cortez Masto, and Fetterman, and who was the third senator? Robbie, remind me. Angus King. I was gonna say. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, he's the yeah. So there it is. Okay. No, they're going to give this up. That is my prediction. Now, here's one of the problems that they have. The whole message that this isn't about illegals isn't going to work because all these clips are coming up from the past where Democrats have run on this issue. For example, during the Democratic debate, this happened.
I haven't heard anybody in my party saying that illegal immigrants should get access to the health insurance marketplace.
I'm so glad you said that. Actually, I have some tape of your Democratic Party members saying this on the debate stage. So they've all said it. Let's play the clip.
A lot of you have been talking tonight about these government health care plans that you've proposed in one form or another. This is a show of hands question, and hold them up for a moment so people can see. Raise your hand if your government plan would provide coverage for undocumented immigrants. Okay.
That was in June of 2019, right? And this is Senator Jeanne Shaheen on Fox and Friends getting asked by Lawrence Jones about this. And so the whole nobody's talking about illegals. Number one, Republicans have published it in the text of the bill that the Democrats try to pass. It's literally in there that this gets funded. So it's kind of not in dispute. A lot of people don't like to read. But then, you go back through the history of it, and May 2019, CNN sat down with an interview with Kamala Harris. Who was interviewing her? Jake Tapper. Maybe this is why Jake Tapper, with his diminished credibility, finds it difficult to carry water for the Democrats now, as they claim it's not about the illegals.
The bill also says, quote, every individual who is a resident of the United States is entitled to benefits for health care services under this act. Not every individual who's a citizen, but every individual who's a resident. So you support giving universal health care, Medicare for all, to people who are in this country illegally?
Let me just be very clear about this. I am opposed to any policy that would deny in our country any human being from access to public safety, public education, or public health, period.
Okay. All right, but now no. I mean, this is what they ran on, right? Then they went into office and they executed on this policy in 21, 22, 23, 24. And then Trump wins because America is like, no, you don't. And the Republicans take charge and do away with it. And now the Democrats in the minority are trying to muscle it through. I wish Democrats worked this hard for citizens the way that they do for illegals. It's astounding. Americans aren't getting their paychecks. Military members aren't getting their paychecks. Things are going to, government's grinding to a halt. Some benefit to that, obviously. We've talked about that yesterday. All to give money to illegals. It's just, wow. If I'm going to talk about the messaging here, this is where this is a white guy that's a social media guy, and he's there's a lot of stuff like this circulating, and they're having so much fun with the sombrero meme, and it's getting millions of views. Hakeem Jeffries speaks about the shutdown, about the Schumer siesta, 36 people, and then our side does something funny. Millions see it. Watch this.
Hola, mi fellow Americanos, y bienvenidos al cierre de Schumer. That means welcome to the Schumer shutdown. We call it the Schumer siesta, right? It's the Schumer siesta. He put the government on siesta, crying Chuck. And El Hakimo Jefe Jeffries, we used to call him Dollar Store Obama, till we realized he's worth far less than $1. But they put the government on siesta to give illegal aliens your health care. We're not going to let it happen. I looked at both of them. I said, we're not going to let it happen. It's no bueno. I said, it's no bueno. They begged me. They said, but senor, por favor, please give illegal aliens the health care. I said, we're not going to do it. We're never going to do it. It's not going to happen. And they're also very upset about our big, beautiful sombreros. You look at them. These are the greatest sombreros the world has ever seen. We really have the best sombreros, and everybody wants one except Crying Chuck and El Hakimo Jefe Jeffries. They don't want one, but they're going to wear one when all is said and done. We're going to end the siesta. We're going to reopen the government, and we will not give in to the demands of Chuck and El Jefe. We're not going to do that. Thank you. God bless you. Dio lo bendiga, and God bless America. Thank you for your attention to this matter.
No, that's not Trump. The guy does a great imitation. Those of you watching the Sam Cam can see that. But yeah, no, we're having fun with it. But the messaging's really simple. We will prioritize making America great again. Make America, putting America first means what? We're not giving money away to illegals. You're just not going to do it. We're not going to go back to where we were under Biden. We're not going to go to do what, Western Europe is doing, committing suicide. So thanks for playing, but we're going to do it our way. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840 KXNT. When we come back, boy, there's some stuff coming out. Speaking of the crazy last 4 years, some stuff coming out about Joe Biden's mental acuity or lack thereof. Don't go anywhere. You don't want to miss this. Hi, Sam Mirejovsky here, making radio great again. Behind the What's Right microphone, friends, welcome to the program. Great to be with you, Sam at what'srightshow.com, at What's Right Sam on X. Get on X. Folks, get on it. It's the place to be. Follow all your favorite people. Hopefully, I make the cut. Now, the mainstream media, well, okay, maybe not necessarily the mainstream media, but now Fox is starting to get into just how bad Biden was slipping mentally. Last night on Fox and Friends, they got after a source who gave him some palm cards. Now, these were Joe Biden's little cheat sheets that he had. So he'd have little cards and it would say, Sam Mirejovsky, Nevada's favorite recovering Californian, host of the What's Right show. Give a short bio about me. Lawyer extraordinaire, co-founder of Sam and Ash, right? That kind of stuff. And, I get it that presidents probably need something like this when they go to a party. There's 200 people there and they don't know the people. But what if there's people on the cards that Biden knew really, really well? Would that give you pause? I give you, here's the report. I'll play it, but it's coming up now because I see a lot of people out there claiming that Trump is losing his marbles. The leftists are. Oh, God, this guy's crazy. He's losing his mind. No, he's running roughshod over you, and you're pissed about it. But this is what was going on. This is how bad Biden's memory was.
Fox Digital was investigating the auto pen ordeal, and they uncovered these 5, what they're calling palm cards. They're cards that Joe Biden could hold in the palm of his hand.
Which, by the way, is common. Some people do that.
Okay, well, on these cards, you have names and photos of high-profile Democrats. Usually, if someone does this, you're walking in a room, you've never met these people. Right. These are people who he knows very well, like Hillary Clinton, Chuck Schumer,
pictures with
Dick Durbin.
Look at this. He served in the Senate with both of them for years. For years.
Yeah. Okay. I think Joe Biden knew who Hillary Clinton was at one point when he still had a brain. Absolutely wild. The other thing it showed is that the media, ABC News and others, were in cahoots with the Biden White House to pre-plan and seed questions, and he knew what the questions would be in advance.
But the fifth card details an ABC News reporter's question to Joe Biden during a press conference and did not include that stamp. So was this a question that she turned in advance?
Yeah, because it was asked. So this is Mary Bruce of ABC. She said this: how do you view the path forward? How do you think about your place in history?
An easy question.
But yeah, by the way, if you have to give that to the president ahead of time, that's scary. The fact that you gave it ahead of time?
Question number 3 in the box. It was written on the card.
Yeah. And remember, he would kind of get ahead of it sometimes because he gets so confused when he went to call on people. And he kept saying, I'm going to get in trouble over and over again. Fox News Digital said this, a former...
No, they did say this, but they talked to a former Biden staffer.
So they tried to explain this away. And they said this, a staffer told Fox Digital that listing notable attendees in bios is standard operating procedure for briefing materials.
It's not true. That's not true.
It isn't true. One of the great upcoming scandals, I'm convinced January 6th, the setup of January 6th is one of them, right? I think that's going to be a major... I think it's going to challenge a lot of people, normies, middle of the road, people, not people who follow the news particularly. Everybody has a concept that's wrong about how January 6th happens. So I think that's going to be one big groundbreaking thing that happens in the next, call it, year or so. But the other one is it fascinates me endlessly as an attorney, the constitutionality of a presidency where the president wasn't in charge or even aware that he was in charge, potentially. People are focusing on the auto pen, signing things like the pardons. There's some testimony from the aides where it's not really clear who actually gave the instruction to Biden, to them to run it over to the machine. And, the way the Constitution is written, the power of the executive branch rests with the president, not his wife, not his vice president, not his assistant, not his son, who may or may not be leaving baggies of cocaine around the White House. It rests with the president. And it's such a big deal that when presidents go in for minor operations that require sedation, they turn over for a temporary, the whole process for turn over the power of the presidency to their vice president. This is a normal established thing, and you find out about it later. So-and-so went in for a operation, and Dick Cheney was president for 5 hours. Acting president, right? These are big deals. This is an unbelievable scandal. And denying it and now turning it around and it's projection, right? The Dems are like, oh, Trump's he doesn't have, he's losing his marbles. Meanwhile, Trump is having long, flights around the world, is on the plane, meeting with media, is on the ground, meeting, answering questions, combative as usual, being funny, speaking off the cuff. They shut his teleprompter down at the UN. He kept on trucking. Said a few things off script, then, read his notes and did his asides and whatever. He's going to be 80 years old. 80 for Trump is clearly not, sadly, for Biden, not 80 for Biden. It's just different for different people. Biden was a non-compos mentis. What if what if Biden's teleprompter went kaput in the middle of it? Can you imagine if Biden had been at the UN giving a speech and some miscreant pulled the plug on the machine? I mean, the joke during the Obama administration was that Obama couldn't go anywhere without his prompter. And at one point, there was a funny social media account or website. I forget who it was. It was on Facebook. This was a long time ago. But it was Obama's teleprompter, and it was sort of like a first-person account in the life of, Obama's prompter. And, because it was, he had to go, here I am calling it the prompter had to go everywhere where the president went, and it became the subject of some humor, because Obama, was very focused whenever he spoke, and he wanted to always be on script. So, yeah, but if it happened to Biden, I mean, it was been toast. So this is, I think, going to be a big, big story. And the more that you hear Democrats talking about Trump's mental condition, it's all in an effort to obfuscate and because they're terrified. Imagine, and I don't know what the answer is, right? Because it's never been done. Imagine, how do you figure out if the presidency of Joe Biden, it's from some point forward, or certain acts were simply not constitutionally valid? When I say it hasn't been tested, we don't have law in it. Simply, there's no precedent for it. And I've come out before, and I've said what my guess is. My guess is that the Supreme Court, and possibly even some conservative justices on the court, real conservative justices, I could see them saying, no, it all holds, because the risk to the institution, the power of the presidency, is so immense. If you were to go back and start undoing things that Biden did, undoing them, I mean, it could weaken the presidency to a disastrous effect. So when we talk about constitutional crises, the only real constitutional crisis is what they created, the Democrats created, by letting Biden continue on as president when he was obviously riddled with dementia. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840 KXNT. Have a great weekend, folks. I'll see you on Monday.